people sketching. One of my major urban sketching goals, I'm not going to say for 2021, too much pressure, but one of my urban sketching goals is, in general, is to get better at people sketching. So when I think about people sketching or talk about people sketching, I'm kind of considering it from two different angles. So one is when a person is like the main focus of the sketch. And then number two is when you're adding people into the sketch as just like a little part. They're just there for context, and maybe the sketch is more based on or more focused on like architecture or the landscape or whatever. The people are just there for kind of context. Although of course the sketch could actually have a mixture of those two things as well. So I don't do too much people sketching yet, but here's a bit of an example. So this sketch is of the king of Ilu, a tribe in the mountains of South Sudan that I was honoured to go and visit, and the sketch is of him. So this demonstrates point one. In this second sketch of a street scene in Guanajuato, Mexico, the people are just added to the sketch for a bit of context. They're very basically drawn. This third sketch I did recently of people sitting in the courtyard of the V&A Museum in London, it's a bit of a blend where the people have more detail to them than the previous example, but the background is kind of also important as well. So I don't know, it's a weird composition. This one, it's not really intentional, it's just sort of what came out at the time. So I'm not sure it's the best example really, but I think you guys know what I'm getting at. I think I really like the reportage aspect of people sketching. So the people may not be drawn in an overly accurate way, but there's a story being captured, you know, whether it's a big story or just a little story. One of my favourite videos on this kind of reportage people sketching, and it's just a small little video, but it's from Kusia from Sketchbook School. She just goes to like a local cafe. I think she's doing her homework for one of the courses or something on Sketchbook School, and she just sort of hangs out and draws some of the customers. And if you haven't checked it out, like do go take a look after this video, of course. But I do really, I don't know, there's something about that video, I just really enjoy it. So I hope it inspires you to get out to your local cafe, restaurant, bar, outdoor market, if it's safe to do so, of course. I've always loved people watching, so I feel like people sketching is just like that step further. That's like elevated people watching, where you're still watching them but you're also sketching them as well. You're kind of recording them, not in a creepy way though. At the time this video is actually published, I will have made the journey. I will have just flown from London to Johannesburg, so I'm hoping to get a bit of people sketching in at Heathrow, you know, sort of around the airport, and maybe even on the plane as well. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, anyway, so let's go on to the actual point of this video. I want to share with you guys some of my favourite people sketches, and I hope by checking out their work it will inspire you to grab your sketchbook and go out and start sketching the human zoo that is around us. I mean that in the nicest possible way, of course. Just a quick note. Everything I mention in this video, books, courses, blah, 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 it will all be in the video description below. So all the links are there. And some of those links do happen to be affiliate links as well. I would be recommending these things to you anyway, because this stuff is what shaped me as an urban sketcher. So I would be sharing this stuff regardless, but some of it is affiliate links. So just letting you guys know that. Okay, number one, although the order I mention these people in does not indicate my preference, I think it's just the order that I literally thought about them in. So number one is Lynn Chapman. So Lynn Chapman is based in Sheffield in the UK, and her sketches of commuters on trains drew me into the world of sketching people. She really captures the essence of the commuters she sketches. Not that I know them, of course, but I just love looking at them. And also Lynn's notes of which train she was on and what time and stuff. I just find it all like just really charming. Interestingly, Lynn is predominantly a children's book illustrator, although she seems to wear many hats as an artist. I think she's done like a few residencies where she's sketched the goings-on of projects, including things like meetings. So lots of people sketching, basically. I really love this idea, and I'm hoping one day I can embark on some kind of reportage project like that. So yeah, I don't know, watch this space. Lynn has a book called Sketching People, an urban sketcher's manual to drawing figures and faces, which you can get over on Amazon and probably any bookstore. I actually found it in my local library so a few years ago, so if you've got access to a library, it's definitely worth checking out. And, you know, if you're serious about developing your people sketching skills, this really is a fantastic book, and especially if you are a fan of Lynn's style of illustration, although I think from memory within the book she does include other artists' work as examples as well. The next urban sketcher I want to mention is Mark Taro Holmes, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Along with Liz Steele, he hosts a sketching challenge each year called 1 Week, 100 People. And as the name suggests, the challenge is to try and sketch 100 people in the space of 1 week. I think it's actually even in the space of 5 days, if I'm honest. I always think, oh yeah, I'm going to have a go at that next year. And whenever it comes to it, there's always something going on, or there's always a reason that I just can't get to do it. So I don't know, maybe 2022 will be my year. Let's see. So Mark's way of trying to fit sketching this many people into 1 week is to carry around like a small sort of A6 size sketchbook and draw in it with a fine liner pen, either a fountain pen or like a technical pen like the microns, like a fine liner, as well as a brush pen. He uses a black brush pen for shadows. So he recommends that everyone sort of starts off this way with very simple materials that you can just grab out of your pocket at a moment's notice. And this will help you to stop agonizing over your sketches, as you only sort of have a thin line and a thick line. Like, that's it. And because of this, you can focus on more of the storytelling aspect of the people sketches, which is kind of, that's where the magic lies, really. So Mark's approach to sketching people quickly is what he calls his head and hands technique. So he actually focuses on capturing these two things first, which I find really interesting. So the head is kind of tells who they are, that says who they are, and then the hands is like what they are doing. So and then everything else comes later if he has time, so he fills in the gaps kind of thing. So yeah, I just think it's a really interesting take on how to sketch people quickly from life and like capture the most important elements of the story. When Mark is sketching just the heads of people, he says to just focus on the head shape and the hair shape. And if you can get these shapes, then you can fill in the rest of the details and get quite a convincing sketch. So I also found that quite a useful tip. So Mark actually has a course over on Craftsy called Sketching People in Motion, and this was actually the first ever course I bought on that platform years and years ago. But it's so good. It's an excellent overview of how to sketch people, and I really do recommend checking it out. Again, link is in the description below. Mark also has a great book about urban sketching called The Urban Sketcher: Techniques for Seeing and Drawing on Location. So that's about urban sketching in general rather than just focusing purely on people sketching. The next artist or sketcher I want to mention is someone called Dwayne Bell. I discovered Dwayne on Instagram. So he is actually the senior lecturer in illustration at Cumbria University in the UK. And his Instagram feed is full to the brim of sketches of commuters, generally on the bus, which Dwayne sketches on his journey to and from work. Obviously, this kind of changed in the last year or so with not really commuting to work and whatnot. But before that, definitely, it was really cool to each day see Dwayne's sketches of bus dwellers, It was really cool. So Dwayne, he seems to tend to sketch in a small, I'm going to murder this word, Leuchtturm 1917 sketchbook, and with a Lamy Safari fountain pen, and that's because his photographs of his work, you can kind of see the sketchbook and the fountain pen in every picture. You can actually take a look through some of Dwayne's sketchbooks over on his website or his Big Cartel site, and you can actually purchase like reproductions of his sketchbooks as well. I do actually have two which I got recently, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to show you guys in this video, but I couldn't even find that. They're like at the bottom of a shipping box, which I'm about to move to South Africa. So yeah, I couldn't show those to you guys, but yeah, you can see them on the website. They're really cool. And Dwayne also produces super interesting reportage projects as well. And if you're interested in seeing more about that, obviously you can see it on his website, but I do actually have an entire blog post on reportage illustration if you guys are interested in finding out a bit more in general about that subject matter. Okay, the next person, I feel like this is very UK heavy, which is kind of cool, but the next person is another sketcher from the UK Adabanji Allate. He was one of the, I think literally one of the first ever sketchers I came across personally, who was sketching people on public transport. And I just love the way he layers people's faces across his sketchbook. He's just totally not precious, and you can see he's just constantly sketching just to practice and improve, which arguably is what, you know, traditionally a sketchbook is for. So as such, Adabanji is just like one of the most prolific sketchers I've come across. He's just insane. He sketches obsessively, and he is a self-proclaimed addict to sketching, which leads me on to mention that he's just released a book. Well, I think it was 2020. Yeah, he's just released a book, and it's called The Addictive Sketcher. So again, you can find it on Amazon, or you can buy it directly from him as well, from his website. But yeah, he's got loads of YouTube videos. You can see him flip through one of his people sketching sketchbooks here on the screen. And yeah, if you want to see more photos of his sketches of people on public transport, you can check out his website. That's probably the easiest way to see all his people sketches in like a collection, you know. Okay, moving on to the next sketcher, actually from the US this time, Don Colley. I feel like I discovered him and then forgot him, and discovered him and forgot him, so I feel like I've only come back to him recently again. And yeah, I just love his people sketches so much. In this video on the screen, he explains how he deals with sketching someone who's constantly moving, and he shows his sketchbook page of just one guy in the library and his different poses over time. So I found this quite an interesting video to watch. So yeah, Don is endorsed by or represents Faber-Castell. He is a huge fan of their Pit Artist pens, which he uses to do his people sketching generally. And he uses an interesting technique where he smudges the ink with his thumb while it's still wet. And then with this technique, he can achieve like cool textures, whether it's like for skin or clothing and that kind of thing. So I found that quite interesting, and it's quite nice to come across someone who's using a bit of a different medium, you know, because I follow a lot of like ink and watercolour and that kind of thing. So seeing him use these Pit Artist pens is really interesting. Okay, next we're going to Ireland, to Rasheen Cure. She's an urban sketcher from Galway, I believe, and her people sketching is very much influenced by her love of comic books, I think, from when she was growing up. I think things like Asterix and Tintin and that kind of thing, but I might be wrong, but you can definitely see that reflected in the way that she draws people, such as using dots for eyes and that kind of thing. And I just really love the way she captures expressions and poses. And even though she is just using things like dots for eyes, she just can really capture a likeness so well. It's amazing. It really is. So Rasheen, I know she certainly like pre-pandemic was conducting a lot of in-person workshops. And I know that she has still carried on, but doing a lot online, which I think you can find on her own website. I think she does a lot of Zoom sessions. Also, she has some mini classes and workshops available through Etcher, and she has a couple of books too. One is on Galway, so her sketches of a town in Ireland or city, and the second's quite recent, I think, and it's part of the Urban Sketchers Handbook series, so it's called Drawing Expressive People. I actually recently got a copy of this because, yeah, huge fan of Rasheen's and really wanted some insight into the way she draws people, so I had a good time leafing through that. So yeah, I do recommend that. And then finally, you want to mention Alvin Mark from Singapore. I love Alvin's YouTube videos, and I love how he can just show himself sketching out and about, filming over his shoulder somehow. I'm still perplexed as to how he manages this, but I need to get in on that action. It looks really cool. And you know, he can be in malls or in queues or whatever, and he's just, you know, just sketching people. Yeah, I just love the way he sketches people. And in this video on the screen here, he's gives you some hacks on how to sketch people, so I found this quite a fun video to watch. And actually just watching him just time-lapse draw is just, I just find it really interesting. So do go and check Alvin's YouTube channel out, give him a like, give him a subscribe, all that kind of stuff. So just before we go, guys, the other thing I wanted to mention to you is that I've been working on revamping my flagship ink and watercolour sketching course. It's getting a new name, it's getting a metaphorical lick of paint, I don't recommend licking any paint, by the way. And some awesome new content as well. So if you're an existing student, don't worry, I'll be emailing you very soon with a nice little special offer. But for those of you who have not taken any course with me, well, I only have one, so those of you who have not taken the course yet, the doors are now closed, I'm afraid. But watch this space for more information on my new upcoming course. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I hope that it's inspired you to get your sketchbook out, get out into the world if it's safe to sketch people. And yeah, I will see you in the next video.